We're here today to talk about the Great Commons strategic considerations in the copy fights.
Inspiration, so you gonna see you can't replace him with cheap imitation from this generation. Do you want more? Cook and roll with the Brooklyn balls. So for one last time, I need y'all to roll. Can I get an encore? Do you want more?
Gigi Mouse took the vocals from Jazz C's The Black Album and remixed it with Beatles' The White Album. In his creation, The Grey Album, he was breaking the copyright law. He was climbing up on shoulders of giants. I guess he just did it, and so did his work. The success of his work would never have been possible without file sharing. Mashup culture exists in the same bowl of production, obtaining, downloading, remixing, reinserting, distribution, and uploading. And sometimes, like in this case, the work escapes the claws of the copyright owners. A claw that has been stretching to bring us back in time before internet, computers, and file sharing. But we will continue and protest against restrictions of file sharing by making file sharing better. The remix has always been here in the way we as beings become, splitting and mapping and absorbing the world with our minds. When computers made a similar splitting possible by storing and processing information, a breakdown of the mass-medial dichotomies started. The computer that takes this property and as it starts its most basic function, copies and remixes. It is vital to acknowledge that we are confronted with intellectual property considerations in our daily life, from kids playing with Pokemon to yoga masters. This is something that has become part of our life in the most concrete way, because the possibility of the universal machine, the computer. It is not gray in terms of the law, but as possibility as technology and technique. It is not optional, but inscribed in the technique we use every day. The gray is not here exactly by an effort, but rather as the shortest way to make our life work with technology. The shading, the tuning, the twisting is omnipresent. It's not something we can wish away. What this really is about is our conditions of living, how information is used, transferred, and owned in society. As humans, creators, amateurs, or fans, in the desire for pleasure and in a chain of small habits, we make the world appear. On a personal level, we all have stories that describe this experience. With the remix as the norm, steps to a democratization of creativity are taken, and the process of liberating the myth of a special class of artists, isolated from the rest of us fans, amateurs, and consumers are taken. Like in a contemporary epic, with the creation at our fingertips, we are now pounding the mass-medial aura, and we are in a state of transgressing the hierarchical consumer-producer society.
Okay, so some words about what we are going to talk about today. We all know what is gray, and we intend to keep it that way. And this Grey Tuesday, we're here to talk about mainly the Pirate Bay, Piratbyrån, Piratgruppen, and Art Liberated. And what the fuck? Yeah, and here we'll touch upon some of this year's major events in, like, the, if you could call it, the Nordic copy fight, like the Polar Pirate Prize, the 1st of May demonstration, the new copyright law in Sweden, the raid at the ISP Bahnhof, and the launch of the project Vidensdeling, and some more things that we hope you will enjoy. And the Pirate Bay is probably the most internationally known project, I guess. the BitTorrent tracker based in Sweden that has now become the most popular BitTorrent site in the world. It receives more daily hits than CNN. And it was started by Piratbyrån, the piracy bureau of piracy or pirate association in Sweden, and who is now running together with a sister organization, Piratgruppen in Denmark, that both are, if you can call them organizations, they are organizations that promote information piracy and supports the free culture through discussions, events, internet communities, media performances, and advice. Well, developing the questions about intellectual property, file sharing, and so on. So, Piratbyrån was born in late summer 2003 it was kind of born from a social internet radio broadcast community, and like people from one of Sweden's largest hacker groups, mainly run through IRC, not this kind of traditional organization, maybe. Well, it was initiated to support the free copying of culture, and has today evolved into some kind of combination between a think tank, internet community, and information site with, in Swedish, you see it here, with news, forums, articles, guides, and shop. Today it's like 55,000 members registered here. And in November 2003, we started the BitTorrent tracker, Pirate Bay. And well, it was intended as a kind of small experiment, but so no one expected it to grow that fast, but it did. And when we saw it was turning into the biggest tracker in the world, it was very natural for us to split it off and let it stand on its own legs, so to say. So today, Piratbyrån and Pirate Bay exist as separate but related entities. And the Pirate Bay, earlier this year, went through a major internationalization. It can now be browsed in languages from Mandarin to Icelandic. And, well, financially, it's relying on donations and a little advertising. But all money that went in has gone to buy more hardware to the server park in Gothenburg. And presently, the Pirate Bay crew has been coordinating some issues with all the other major BitTorrent trackers in the world, and the plan is to evolve the next generation of the BitTorrent protocol. I have no details to offer, but some of the Pirate Bay crew will show up here soon. Well, so something more about what we've done with Piratbyrån this year. This summer we released the book Copy Me, a pocket book in Swedish about copy fight and file sharing culture. And it sold like 2,000 hard copies, while also available for free download. It's pretty good in Sweden. I will soon return to why these questions have been quite big by us. But one interesting thing with releasing this kind of book as a paper copy is the reception of it in traditional mass media. Because book reviewers in major newspapers have claimed that Piratbyrån now initially was very immature and not worth taking seriously at all. But now everything has changed with this good and thought-provoking book. But anyway, the book was basically a paper version of texts that have been available on the website all the time. So when the traditional mass media journalists say that it is more serious now when printed on paper, it only reflects the paper journalists' valuation of the internet. Well, so some words about Denmark. Our Danish friends that could not show up here. But Their equivalent or sister organization was founded in 1 year after Piratbyrån in Sweden in 2004. And they have caused even more interesting responses by them. Very, very fast, they were nominated by the Association of Danish Music Journalists for the Idea of the Year award. And the copyright industry turned hysteric. And the big trade union federation in Denmark withdrew their sponsorship for the prize award, seeing that as some kind of attack on workers' rights. And, but then the interesting thing happened that the very large Roskilde Festival went in as a new sponsor to show their support for the pirates. And that's of course interesting because it shows that, I mean, we often talk about the music industry as some kind of entity, some kind of evil entity, but I mean, the festival side of the music industry can be really pro-piracy, no doubt. So in Denmark, the prosecution of individual file sharers had started earlier than in Sweden. So one of Piratgruppen's first actions was to set up a fund for juridical support. And the aim was said to protect and expand this gray zone. And a similar fund is now about to be established in Sweden too, as the anti-piracy persecutions have started by us too now. Well, another project of the Danish Piratgruppen is called Vidensdeling, and where students are encouraged to digitalize and share expensive books on their reading lists, creating a digital library. So far, the campaign has resulted in books being shared on the Pirate Bay, while the publishing companies have joined the entertainment industry in Denmark in their desperate outcries. And this year, after Denmark, it was Norway's turn to follow by starting an own initiative called Piratgruppen 2. And Finland are now on their way, so we are like kind of consolidating some kind of modern pro-piracy axis. And of course, we are always interested in establishing contact with other allies, forming an even larger axis of piracy. So, Palle.
I would like to say something where my involvement with Piratbyrån comes from. I would like to do this because it describes a personal experience of living under the current copyright regime that I was referring to in the beginning. I've been involved with Piratbyrån since more than a year now, and we met at a party for the best Swedish website. And since we had many aspirations in common, we decided to do some kind of collaboration. I wanted to engage in Piratbyrån because it is the best way for me to oppose the current copyright regime and basically make a link to the redistribution of culture, which I find to be the key element in bringing about a funnier place to live in. In '95, I did a project, Museum Meltdown, in collaboration with another artist, Tobias Bernstrup. With this project, we got international recognition as the first group of artists to use computer games in our artist practice. Museum Meltdown consists in a series of site-specific computer game installations in European art museums. Using the graphical engine of existing video games like Doom, Duke Nukem 3D, Quake, Half-Life, we transformed the museum architecture into violent computer games, where the museum visitor could wander around inside the virtual version of the museum and killing and blowing up masterpieces. Since then, I've continued to work with computer game-based projects. The last one, Evil Interiors, are computer games reconstructions of movies like Psycho, Reservoir Dogs, and Scarface. I have experienced and loved the power and potential of the open file and information structure of the computer game community, where files are shared among kids for the benefit of the evolution of playing.